The Smashing Pumpkins are a Chicago-based band from the late 80s and early 90s. The original lineup consisted of Billy Corgan and co-founder and second guitarist James Iha. Not too long after the band's formation, bassist Darcy Retzky and drummer Jimmy Chamberlain joined them. They immediately started attracting local buzz around Chicago due to their unique and innovative sound. Eventually, they earned a record deal with Carolina Records and started their freshman album, Gish. The 1991 album, Gish, is the Smashing Pumpkins' first album, which was produced by Butch Vig, who, not long after, went on to produce Nirvana's Nevermind. All this culminated into a promising start for the band. The album featured hard rock accompanied by shoegaze and psychedelic rock overtones. Gish received critical acclaim, landing the band a record deal with the parent company of Carolina Records, Virginia Records, and they began recording the follow-up album. Siamese Dream built upon their accomplishments in Gish and amplified their sound into the sonic masterpieces known as today. But the process of creating the album was awful, terrible. Siamese Dream was recorded from December 1992 to March of 1993, and the band decided to record at Triclops Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. The reason for going to such an out-of-the-way place compared to LA or New York is because they wanted to cut Jimmy Chamberlain's known drug connections. At the time, he was at the apex of his heroin addiction and would often be gone for days on end during the recordings of the album. Butch Vig reprised his role as producer after working with them on their previous album. He later stated in an interview, "Billy Corgan and I raised the bar really high. We wanted to make a very ambitious sounding record. It was all done on analog tape, so it was very time consuming. We were working 12 hours a day, 6 times a week for about 3 months. And for the last 2 months, we worked 7 days a week, 14 or 15 hours a day, just because we were behind schedule." Another ongoing problem through the album's creation was the breakup of Darcy Retzky and James Iha. At some points in the recording, they would lock themselves in separate rooms for hours on end just to make sure they would never see each other. James would not talk at all to Corgan, which further complicated his position. Eventually, Billy started to lock himself in the recording booth for hours just to do retakes of the guitars and bass tracks that were already recorded. He stated in interviews that while all this was going on, he was planning his suicide. He got rid of most of his possessions and was fantasizing about his death and making the music he would like to have played at his funeral. Even though the recording was very tumultuous, they finished it after 4 months. Due to the rigorous recording process they subjected themselves to, they sent it over to Alan Moulder, who mixed Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. Billy Corgan wanted to replicate the sound that My Bloody Valentine achieved on their album, so he threw the idea to Butch Vig. Moulder booked 2 weeks in the studio to mix the album. The mix ended up taking 36 days to complete. Eventually, after all his struggles, the album was finished after 4 months and $250,000 over budget. Now, since we finished discussing the album, we'll move on to the songs themselves with the first track, Cherub Rock. Even though it's the first song on the album, it was the final song that was written. It's said that Billy Corgan wrote the song about his relationship with the indie rock community and larger media. A common theme that you'll pick up while listening to this album is the use of overdubs and layering. This is when you take 2 or however many tracks and layer them over each other for a unique effect. Today was the very first song that Corgan wrote for the album. After being hyped up as the next Nirvana due to the success of the first album, Gish, Corgan fell into a very deep depression. He was plagued by writer's block and even contemplated suicide due to the pressure. Billy created a demo of the song while recording everything except for drums by himself. Eventually, because of the conflicts within the band, he recorded every song by himself. Disarm is the most personal song Billy Corgan wrote for this album. It is about the physical and emotional abuse he suffered from his parents from a young age. He wrote the songs in hope that his parents would feel quote-unquote really bad for all the abuse they put him through. But, ironically, it became his mother's favorite songs. The lyrics, disarm you with a smile, and leave you like they left me here, to wither in denial, and disarm you with a smile, and cut you like they want me to, cut that little child, leave a sense of desperation. Corgan originally wrote this song in tandem with Today. Both are essentially suicide notes. For our next track, we have Soma. Most prominently known for its more than 40 layered guitar tracks, Soma is described as a quote-unquote beautiful ballad based on the idea that a love relationship is almost the same as opium. It slowly puts you asleep, it soothes you, and it gives you the illusion of sureness and security. From the heavenly arpeggios to the gnarly distortion, the song is going down as one of the greatest songs ever. Now ignore that previous song, this is the actual greatest song ever. Mayonnaise is the 9th track on Siamese Dream, and its name is believed to be a phonetic for mine own eyes, or just the first thing Billy Corgan saw in his refrigerator. But he has now since revealed the actual reason for the title. During their Gish album tour in Japan, a fan booklet mistranslated a lyric from the album to Mayonnaise Seas. They put it as a temporary name for the song, but it stuck. In my opinion, this song is tying with Soma as the most shoegaze influenced song on the album. It further influenced the genre of shoegaze with many of its big name artists today.